Dating has gotten way too complicated. I think through screens or overhearing others' conversations, we think dating is some complicated game. There are things like looks maxing and Riz, and while those things are funny ironically to me, there are some guys out there that actually think they need those things to be some sort of player in order to get some girlfriend, and to be completely honest, that is utter bullcrap. Look, I've made plenty of mistakes in my time while dating myself, and I've learned some things the hard way, from obsessing over girls I barely knew, to trying dating apps that didn't really work, to eventually finding someone I actually want to marry. So I want to break down what I think guys in their 20s are getting wrong about dating and what I'd actually do about it. Because look, once you stop treating dating like some game you have to win, it gets a lot easier and a lot simpler. That being said, to start this conversation off, I need to talk about something that's really common, and that is that dating has been really overcomplicated, and in pretty much every aspect, to be honest, right? First off, like I said earlier, whether it's through social media or other social expectations, I know a lot of guys my age that really think that dating is a game and that you have to win by getting a girl, and that's frankly just not true. There's no formula, there's no cheat code, there is no step-by-step plan to get a girl, because frankly, every different guy is unique in their own way, and also every girl is different in their own way as well. So there is no such thing as some cheat code or some guide to be able to pick chicks up. That's just not how it works. Again, you do not need a perfect pickup line either. You don't need a perfect outfit or hairstyle or strategy. You don't need some random guy on YouTube to rate your face for $5. If you think that's a joke or you think that's not serious, there are actual YouTube channels that will rate your face for you if you pay them. Absolutely ludicrous, but again, at its core, dating is pretty simple, and I think we just overcomplicate it. It is simply just meeting some girl, talking to her a little bit, asking her out, getting to know them, and if you're compatible and you like her, then you continue going out. It's that simple, right? And I feel like the more we stray away from this, the more complicated dating gets, the more stressful it gets, but it's simple. The more you understand how dating actually works, the less pressure you're going to put on yourself on the first date, the second date, the third date, and just in general. You're not trying to win dating, you're just trying to find somebody you actually connect with, somebody that you want to love, somebody that you want to build a future with, somebody that you just enjoy being around. It's not about getting a girl. I think alongside this, there's some pride that comes with it. Like, there's some social expectation that your worth as a man goes up depending on how many girls are interested in you or how many girls you dated, and that's just completely ludicrous as well. Again, I've just seen guys my age and people I know who's obsessed like over every single word they say, everything they wear, how they approach women in their day-to-day, how they act in their day-to-day, what hobbies they have, when the actual goal is just to get to know another human being, and if it works, it just works, and it's really that simple. And I think when you start treating dating like it's some sort of game, it leads to another issue, which is putting women on a pedestal which they should just not be on, and that's just something you also should probably stop if you're doing it as well. Again, at the end of the day, even if this girl is absolutely beautiful, you have a massive crush on her, you just want to be with her, well, she's just still another human being at the end of the day. She isn't some sort of prize that determines whether you're valuable. You don't have to win her like a carnival game. It's so silly. You can have a crush and you can like a girl, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that there is. I'm just saying that she's still a human being, and so you shouldn't be chasing her like you're a little puppy dog. And when you put her on a pedestal right away, especially when you hardly know her, you just start creating pressure on the situation and on yourself. You immediately are like, oh, does she like me? Dude, did I say the right thing? What should I text her? What if I screw up? And ironically, all of that pressure just makes you less like yourself, which is going to make her like you less as well. You should absolutely respect and value the woman you're trying to date and taking on dates and have a crush on, but you don't have to treat her like she's above you. Again, I have just seen guys in my personal life absolutely get hooked and fixated onto a girl. They chase her, and then when she says no to a first date or the first date doesn't go well, their lives are pretty much completely over, at least they think it is, and in reality, it was never a big deal in the first place because this was somebody that they weren't even dating, they didn't even know, they didn't have any of this, but they put her on this pedestal and absolutely broke their hearts when it didn't go well, and that's an issue. That being said, putting pressure on the specific girl and putting pressure on yourself is just one thing that I would avoid as well, right? The next thing we have to look at is the first date, which is inevitable. It always comes up, but it's something that a lot of guys put pressure on as well. So many guys build up this girl in their head, this girl in their head, this girl in their head. They finally ask her out. They finally ask her to get coffee. They finally see her out of school or out of work or whatever it looks like, right? And then they get to the first date. This first date doesn't need to determine whether you're going to marry this person. And oftentimes that's what guys like automatically go towards. They're like, okay, I got this first date. Now I got to build this into a relationship. But in reality, what a first date is figuring out if you like each other. Not just if she likes you, but if you like her, right? Now, for me personally, I've had a lot of crushes over the years. I'll admit that. And I built them up in my head. But oftentimes what I realized is I'd get to the first date and I'd really want this first date to go well. I would do anything in my power to make her like me. I would treat her nice, take care of her, and all those things are great, of course. But I would also like try to convince myself in my mind that this girl is perfect when in reality, we just weren't really a good fit, right? And so what ended up happening was those girls would end it off with me because once again, they just didn't vibe well with me. It was just that simple. However, I was completely heartbroken because I thought this was the woman I was going to spend the rest of my life with, even though I'd never talked to her up to that point, right? And all of this simply derived from me putting pressure on this first date, acting like if it doesn't work, that means I failed. And in some realities, two perfectly happy and good people just aren't compatible with each other, and that's fine. Our measure should not be worth whether we get a second date or not. Again, the mindset should simply just be, I hope she likes me, but also I hope I like her. A first date is evaluating both of each other, not trying to convince somebody to date you in the future, and that's something I wish I knew earlier. And oftentimes this can lead to having your self-worth be tied to whether a girl likes you, and once again, that's just a problem in itself. I kind of already talked about that earlier, so let's move on. Again, moving forward, then what's the solution to all these things, right? Instead of putting women on a pedestal, and instead of trying way too hard on a first date, and even like just simplifying dating, what should we do? What is the answer for this little problem, right? And it's really simple. I don't really want to be unoriginal here, but it's the truth, and it's just to be yourself. Again, you don't need some magical strategy to find the right person. When you're with somebody you're genuinely compatible with, you don't need to constantly perform at all. Like, you just need to be yourself, right? You laugh, you make the jokes you think are funny. If she finds them funny too, that's great. If she thinks you're a complete weirdo and doesn't find them funny, then she's just not the girl for you. Maybe you're a really dry person and she's a really dry person and you just work out together. Maybe you both love movies and you love movies. You don't need to pretend to like love her hobbies. You don't have to pretend to love baking and cooking and like walking your dog if those are her hobbies, right? Be yourself, have your own hobbies, and do your thing. People with different hobbies can still come together. It's much more of a personality and a humor tie than anything else. And again, this is a big personal story for me, right? Like, this is how I met my girlfriend. It was just by me being myself. I met my girlfriend in a finance class because, again, that's my major and that's what I enjoy. I ran into her at a Christian event. Again, I'm a big devout Christian. She is too. I eventually got her number. I eventually went on a date. We just had a good time. We enjoyed each other and we connected on similar things together. And that's what's led to us having a great, healthy relationship, is those simple things. I didn't have some master plan. I didn't rizz her up as much as I would like to think that I'm a self-proclaimed grizzly bear, right? At the end of the day, it was simply just she liked me and I liked her, and it was that simple. Again, looking back, there was nothing I did that was really special or unique, and I think that's really the point. Just being yourself is going to get you further than doing anything else, and it's really that simple. But obviously, there's one problem with this advice. I'm going to be honest. If you never meet anybody, you're never going to find anybody to go on dates with, and that kind of moves me into our other point, right? You actually have to put yourself out there in life. You can't meet someone if you're sitting in your room 24/7 playing video games, watching Netflix, or just talking to your friends, whatever it might be. Not saying those things are bad. I'm just saying you're probably not going to meet the girl of your dreams doing those things. And I'm also not saying you have to completely change your lifestyle to find a girlfriend. You don't need to change your hobbies. I've seen literal Instagram reels and YouTube videos talking about the most attractive hobbies that women find attractive, when in reality, yes, there are some things that women are going to find attractive, like don't sit around 24/7 and be a loser. Be a little bit active, have some amount of grit to you, but you don't need to change your whole life just to get women. That's just not true. But anyways, what you do need to do is actually leave your house and interact with people. And look, I am going to say I'm a complete introvert, and I understand that this is not fun and not good, but in reality, you're going to have to if you want to meet people and meet your future woman. So put yourself in situations where meeting somebody is actually possible. Again, I've had days, like I said earlier, where I've sat in my room playing Fortnite, Call of Duty, and watching movies. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that or doing that sometimes. The problem is when it's your entire life. Again, for me, like I talked about earlier, I met my girlfriend in one of my finance classes. That's somewhere I was already going to be. I was already going to have to go to that lecture and learn that material and study, right? But there just happened to be this pretty girl sitting next to me that we just happened to have interests with. And if I didn't reach out and talk to her, if I never started that conversation, we wouldn't be dating today. And it's really that simple, right? And so it's not about going out more, but it's just about being present in your day-to-day. If there's a cute girl at Starbucks, like at the cash register, you don't even have to ask her out or get her number. Just talk to her. In that simple, maybe like small talk of 3 to 4 sentences, you might be able to find out whether you two connect or not, right? Like maybe you have something really random in common and you just hit it off from there. You never know, right? And maybe this looks like joining some sort of hobby or club, right? Maybe you love to freaking go on hikes, you join a hiking group. Maybe you work out, you join a workout class or Pilates class. I don't know what it might look like for you, right? But if you just join places and be in places where you meet people with similar interests and similar lifestyles, you're more likely to find somebody you actually connect with. And it's that simple. Again, you don't have to force anything. You don't have to like change your whole life, but just give yourself some more opportunities. And the more you actually put yourself around people, the more you naturally develop another skill a lot of guys are missing. And this is going to sound really stupid, but a lot of guys I know my age genuinely don't know how to talk to women. Like, I'm not talking about like approaching random women at a mall and rizzing them up and hitting them with the best pickup line in the world. I'm not talking about that. I'm literally just talking about having a simple conversation with a woman. The amount of guys my age that I personally know that can't talk to women is absolutely absurd. And if this is you, I don't mean to like make fun of you or to bully you. I might have gotten the head of the curve a little bit, right? The first girl I ever asked out in person straight up was in high school. And look, I can recognize that was a little early and a little ahead of the curve. Like most people were just getting girlfriends on Snapchat or like, you know, the side hug dating, if you know what I mean, right? Like back in the day. But man, if you're a grown man and you're looking to date, you're going to eventually have to talk to women because the only way you're actually going to build a relationship with a woman and start dating a girl, even if she's absolutely beautiful, is you're going to have to talk to her at some point, right? That's what a relationship is truly about, right? Like, I love that my girlfriend is beautiful. I love that she's funny. I love that she's pretty, all those things, right? But at the end of the day, if she drove me nuts, if we didn't have good conversations, if she wasn't smart, if she wasn't like, if we didn't bounce off of each other well, this relationship would never go anywhere. And so you have to learn how to talk to women. And it's really that simple. And again, I think we overthink this as well. Practicing talking to women doesn't mean you have to go up to the Kim Kardashians of the world and like try to be smooth with them right away. No, it's literally just like talking to women, girls in your class, your friend's girlfriend even maybe. I don't know what it is. Just literally talking to women without the intent of asking them out. And through that, you're going to learn how to just talk to women better. It's really that simple. Again, the point is you're eventually going to have to develop this skill. Talking to women is like a muscle. If you don't work it out ever, you're not going to be able to do it. Yeah, it's that simple. Just start talking to women. And so then when you have an opportunity that presents yourself and you're like, wow, this girl's actually really cute and really pretty, I'm going to ask her out. You're actually able to do that. You're not too scared to, right? You just want to be in that type of situation. And let's say, just for instance, that you end up getting this girl's number. You do find some girl you like and you go on a first date. How do you actually go on a first date? And where do you take her on a first date? Well, this is another thing that a lot of guys overthink. They think they have to spend a bunch of money to impress her, all those things. And again, like we talked about earlier, you shouldn't be putting this girl on a pedestal. This is simply a first date to figure out if you two like each other. And so the thing that I think is very simple is doing coffee. Lunch is fine too. Dinner is fine too. I actually think that getting ice cream is an absolutely great one because you can walk a little bit and have a little bit more activity. Another thing with having an activity, like if you do bowling or mini golf, again, another simple and cheaper thing is you actually have an activity that's going to take pressure off of the conversation, which isn't a bad thing to have either. But again, the main goal is to just create a simple environment where you can actually get to know each other, keeping it relatively cheap, keeping it very low pressure. And again, if you click, you'll click. I'm not going to go on about this anymore, really. I'll be honest, I've been on a lot of first dates where I've gone on coffee dates. I've done a picnic before. If this is a girl that's really special to you, I'd be a little bit more intentional, maybe doing a picnic, maybe doing a special walk and ice cream and dinner. I don't know what that looks like, right? But if this is just some random girl you've never really met and don't really know, coffee, lunch is usually pretty fine. To keep this simple, you don't need to spend $200 trying to impress someone you don't even know yet. And it's that simple. That being said, actually picking out the date spot and getting on the date is one thing, but there is another step to this process as well, which is actually being on the date. And I know so many guys that just don't know how to date well. So if you haven't been on a first date, or maybe you've been on one and it didn't go great, maybe you can try this and implement this. And it's as simple as don't turn your date into a job interview. It can be scary and very pressure filled, so you just feel like there needs to be a conversation going 24/7. So you just drill this girl with question after question after question, man. And that can come off really, really abrasive. I'll be honest, right? And I've been on dates like this before and it hasn't gone well, but I lived and I learned, right? And now I'm sharing that wisdom with you. Again, you can ask questions. There's definitely nothing wrong with that. And at that, I would ask deeper questions, be genuinely curious, but at the end of the day, just let the conversation naturally flow. Bounce off of each other a little bit, respond to what she's saying, of course. And don't be afraid of a little bit of silence. Silence is a normal part of life. Again, just have fun, make jokes, talk about stupid stuff too. I don't really know, right? Those are some of the most fun conversations, is when you're just talking about stuff that doesn't matter at all. That's really stupid. There's nothing wrong with that. Talk about that stuff too, right? Again, you're trying to figure out what this person is actually like. Again, don't act like an army drill sergeant. It's that simple. I've been on dates, again, like I said earlier, where the conversation has felt very unnatural. I've been on ones that felt really natural. And that being said, if like you're on a date and you feel like this thing is just not naturally flowing and you have to start asking question after question after question just to keep a natural flow of things, that's actually probably a bad sign that just isn't gonna work out. And that's all right. Like I said earlier, first dates don't have to work out. It's okay if they don't. Your life isn't over if they don't, right? And yeah, it's just kind of really that simple. But I'll be real, like a conversation going kind of bad on a first date's bad, but this thing I'm going to talk about next is even worse, and it's people falling in love with girls they've never talked to. One of the worst things you can do is create an entire relationship inside of your head. Not only are you going to start building up this fake image of what this girl's going to be like and putting immense pressure on yourself for no reason, but you're going to lead yourself on, to be honest, emotionally, and that's terrible, right? Like, you're going to imagine this girl, you're gonna see her pictures on Instagram, you're gonna think she's cute, you're gonna start checking them like 3 times a day just to get a look at her. You're gonna imagine what it's like to date her, imagine what it's like gonna be for her to be your girlfriend, have your first kiss, all those fun little things, right? But you're not actually doing that in real life, and she doesn't even know what your name is, and that's a little creepy, dude. And look, like, I'll be honest, I've done this a little bit too back in middle school and high school, like, I get it, but you gotta be better than that. I gotta be real, and I've got a personal story for this. I had this big crush in 6th grade, right? There was this girl that I saw and I thought she was really cute, and I looked at her for a year, 2 years, 3 years. It went from 6th grade all the way to senior year. That's absolutely insane. And this is the girl that I first asked out, like I talked about earlier, right? And I eventually asked her out, of course, right? Like I talked about earlier, and she said yes. And we went on 2 dates, 3 dates, but then things ended. She ended it with me. And looking back, like, I was crushed in the moment because this girl that I had a crush on since 6th grade broke up with me, or we didn't even break up because we weren't dating. But looking back now, it's like, dude, we just weren't a good match. Those dates were not fun. I've been on more dates since then, and literally probably all of them have been more fun than those 2 to 3 that we went on together because we weren't a good match. Again, you could be attracted to a girl and things might just not work out. And also, things might work out with you, but she might not like you back. And like I said earlier, that doesn't mean you're a less than human being. It just means you guys weren't a good fit, and that's all right. Again, the point of this is, like, don't build up a relationship in your head that isn't there or not true. Act on it in the real present day and see where things go, because oftentimes our minds fill in the blanks in a good way, when in reality they could be filled in a meh way, or they could be filled in a bad way, or a terrible way, or a great way, right? But our brains are always going to go to that best case scenario, and in some realities it's just not the truth, right? And it's not that she's not going to like us. Sometimes, like I said earlier, it's just we're not going to like her either, right? Again, reality doesn't care about the story you've been creating in your head. So if there's a girl you've been obsessing over, stop checking her Instagram, stop imagining a future together, right? Try to get into a situation where you're talking to her. Maybe you get her number, ask her out, and find out who she actually is. And through that, you're going to figure out who this girl actually is and whether you guys work out. It's way better to do that than sit around and imagine and imagine and imagine. But now that I've kind of covered the full circle of dating, I looked from the very first date to even before the first date to even if a first date doesn't happen, happen, or, all that stuff, right? There's a few more topics that I want to cover that don't naturally fit into this groove. So let's start with dating apps first, right? Look, dating apps aren't some necessary evil, but they're incredibly easy to get trapped in. It starts as maybe the next girl is better. Just one more swipe, one more profile, one more match, and suddenly you're gonna catch yourself slipping and being like, wow, feel like a loser. I've sat here for 2 hours swiping girl after girl. I haven't got a match. I haven't got a date. I haven't got a girlfriend. What's the point of this? And you're right for feeling that way, because that's an absolutely sucky feeling. You're gonna feel like nobody actually wants to date you. Maybe you're ugly. Maybe your profile sucks, whatever it is, right? Like, that just sucks. I'll be real. I've tried dating apps before. I downloaded a couple. I started swiping. Let me say, dating apps are incredibly addictive as well, because it's like, holy cow, girl after girl after girl after girl after girl. This one's a little pretty. This one's a little prettier. This one's a little uglier. This one's a little prettier. This is like emotional game. And then you realize, oh, I'm judging girls based on how they look and not how their personalities are. So the real dictator of a relationship isn't even getting factored in here, which is absolutely ludicrous to begin with. But again, I'll be real. I got exhausted and I deleted the apps. And then about a month later, I met my girlfriend, who I'm currently still dating, right? Again, I'm not saying that you have to delete dating apps. I'm not saying that they're evil. I'm just saying don't put your worth into them. Don't put your energy and your time into them. If something works through a dating app, then that's great. Don't have it be your only hope, and don't have it be your sense of worth either. Again, dating apps can be an option. Just don't make it your only option or your entire dating strategy. That being said, the next thing I want to talk about after dating apps is now something that nobody really thinks about, and I feel like I'm very alone on in this day and age, but it's something that I think is incredibly important, and it's don't just date someone because you're comfortable with them. This is where I think dating gets serious. Again, I think in some aspects we take dating way too seriously, in other aspects we take it way too casually, and this is where I think we take it way too casually, right? So many people get into dating somebody, and after 2 to 3 dates, they're like, oh, I really like this person, I want to date them, and then they start dating them, and they continue to date them, and there might be red flags or beige flags as that relationship goes on, and it's like, okay, this person isn't perfect, but I still like them, I think they're cute, and I like making out with them, and so they just continue the relationship, and then the relationship turns into 3 to 5 to 6 to 8 years, and maybe even marriage, and then you get married for a year, and you're like, oh, this just was never meant to work in the first place, right? And I'll be completely honest, this all starts on the 4th or 5th date of a relationship. So many people enter relationships with people that they're not compatible with at all. They have fun together, they think each other are pretty attractive too, which is great. I'm not saying that those things are bad, and I'm not saying you should be unattracted to your person, right? But when push comes to shove and things get hard, you need to have somebody that was actually built to go and run the distance with you. And you might be confused here. What am I actually talking about? Let me break this down a little bit, right? For me personally, my girlfriend and I, on probably our 4th or 5th date, right before I asked her to be my girlfriend, I basically went through everything, or at least had everything in my head. And through our first couple dates together, I had a pretty good idea of who she was, but there's a few things that I was still interested about, right? Like at this point, I knew she was a Christian. I knew kind of where she stood politically, at least kind of vaguely, but again, politics weren't something that was really important to me, right? But the things that I didn't know about her that were important to me, like kids and family and money, those things I asked her about straight up on our 4th or 5th date. And when she answered those things and they kind of lined up with what I was looking at, I was like, okay, I'll ask her to be my girlfriend now. And it was really cute and sweet, and it wasn't super serious when I did that part of it. But again, I wouldn't have entered a relationship with somebody that I wasn't compatible with on the serious, important topics. And I see so many people my age getting into long-term relationships with people that they don't see eye to eye on with the basic stuff. If you're dating somebody and you want to get married and they don't want kids and you do, that's a problem. If you're dating somebody and you're Jewish and they're a Muslim, that's probably going to be an issue. If you're dating somebody who spends a bunch of money and you are a person who loves to save and invest, that's a problem, right? Talk about the serious and important things first. Again, that's not a first date conversation. That's not putting pressure on anything. It's not a second date or a third date either, right? But before you establish that you're entering into a serious relationship, make sure it's somebody that you actually want to build a serious relationship with. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to lead both of yourselves on, and you're eventually going to have to break up because you don't see eye to eye on those things, and that can just lead to a bunch of different problems. So again, instead of doing all that, have the serious conversations early on. Again, you don't need to have every answer. You just need to know that you're generally heading in the same direction. Because again, you don't want to be that person who wants to grow up on a farm and they want to move to LA and become an actor. That was just never meant to work in the first place. So again, figure those things out before you enter a committed relationship. But again, going back to what I said earlier, just have fun. On a first date, second date, third date, fourth date, fifth date, even 6 months into dating, things should be fun. If they are not fun, that's a problem. Again, I'm not saying you're never going to have lows. Like, the only reason you're going to be able to have highs in a relationship is because the lows are going to come with it. So just because lows come doesn't mean it's failing. But if you're just miserable, not having fun, you're feeling dependent, you feel miserable with some person, man, that's just not the relationship for you. Because either you're going to break up or you're going to get married. And if you're miserable dating, you're probably going to be even more miserable married. It's just true, right? So again, dating in general just doesn't have to be this terrifying process. Again, you're gonna have bad dates, you're gonna get rejected, you're gonna get friend zoned, you might get ghosted, shoot, you might even get cheated on, right? And at some point you're probably gonna say, this is stupid, I hate this is miserable, and I understand that, right? But have fun with it when you can. Go on dates, have fun, laugh, have good conversations, all that. Again, don't put your entire self-worth into finding a girlfriend. Don't expect to find your soulmate in 2 weeks. Don't expect every first date to work. Just have fun getting to know people and having crushes and getting those butterflies. That's fun. Eventually, you're going to be married and you're never going to go through this again. At least, hopefully, right? So just have fun with it while you can. I'm not saying to treat it completely flimsy, right? Not taking it serious at all, not having any serious conversations, never getting into a committed relationship. I'm not saying to not do those things. I think those things are incredibly important. However, don't strain yourself too much. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Don't put too much pressure on her, right? Again, the crazy thing for me is that the relationship that I'm now in, that I'm planning to marry this girl in, it didn't require some elaborate dating strategy. We met naturally, we talked, we went on dates, we got to know each other, and it just developed from there. Again, dating can be stressful, it can be awkward, it can be awful sometimes, but it also can be really fun. So whatever it looks like for you, just have fun with the process, man, and it's really that simple. But hey, if you enjoyed this video and this long talk, consider subscribing and leaving a like, and check out another video on your screen right now. It's another video of mine. I think you'll love it. Peace out.